Welcome back to the Tracy Take. Thanks for joining us tonight while we are watching Monday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants. Sorry, I had to think about that one for a second. But think of this kind of like the Manning cast, but instead of two rich, famous Hall of Fame quarterbacks, you have two, I would just say, less rich brothers also talking about football. So I'm Tyler, the co-host here with my brother Ryan. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. A little tired tonight, but
a little tired. Okay,
it was a busy weekend. Going up there seeing the new addition to the family. So
it was, yeah. Ryan got to see his niece this weekend, and so very excited. And his girlfriend was very happy. Also, I think.
Oh yeah.
I might be having a niece or nephew here within the next couple of years, based off how excited Abby was. So
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Anyways, before we get into before we get into week 3, crazy week 3, a lot of upsets that we're going to be getting into. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Also, hit that like button and share this video with your friends and family. We love growing this audience. We love just having these conversations and having the interactions with you guys and our fans. And we're looking forward to kind of continuing to grow this community of just people who just love football. So that all being said, let's get into week 3. Ryan, I was thinking about it too at the end, especially after watching that thrilling Sunday night football game between the 49ers and Broncos. I think I thought about this if I really want, like if I'm having trouble putting my daughter to sleep at night, what I think I might do instead of like putting a nursery song on or like reading books to her, I think I might just put that game on. And it should work really quickly. It should work
honestly,
really quickly.
I think any of the Broncos games this year, I think would work pretty well.
It's funny because I'm all for, like, we were watching in week 2, you had the Saints Tampa Bay game, and defensive heavy game, a lot of trash talk. Obviously, there was a fight, but I was thinking about it too because why that game was a heavy defensive game, but I think it was like we were texting about it. It was for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
like the Saints and Buccaneers teams, really kind of all things considered. Maybe the Saints offense I would consider weaker, but I think some of that might have to do also with like their quarterback situation as well. But they have good talent. I think they have a good offense. They and the Buccaneers, obviously led by Tom Brady, have a lot of good skill position players on there. But it was interesting. It was like you were watching a chess match and everything. Watching that 49ers Broncos game last night was the exact – it's like you were trying to watch two people play checkers. It's just – there's very little strategy. It's just – you're just not – I mean, it just seemed like they were just running into each other.
Round peg into a square hole the whole day.
Yeah, it just did not
into a round hole, I think is the
the only thing that looked competent really was the Broncos defense. I do think the Broncos defense is legit.
Yeah,
through and through. Other than that, though, I think Jimmy G looked rusty. One thing I will say to defend Jimmy G, when Trent Williams went down, their left tackle, Chris Collinsworth was right on this. That offense changed completely. They could not get anything going on offense as soon as Trent Williams went down, and I need to actually look into that. But that was kind of one of the few. I'm not surprised that Denver won, but I believed that San Francisco was going to win. I think a lot of people believe that San Francisco was going to win. They were the betting favorites going into that game. But that happened a lot. There was a lot of home underdogs, and a lot of home underdogs won. We struggled in our picks this last week. Right now, I'm guaranteed to at least go 500 for this week. You are a little have a little less luck this week. I'm at 8 and 7 with my picks.
Screwed by last second touchdowns and game winners.
I mean, it goes both ways. Like the Chicago-Houston one, it was back and forth where I came out. But then at the same time, I could say the same thing, though, about Detroit and Minnesota. Detroit should have won that game. They're up 10 with 9 minutes left or something like that. And they went for it. I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure that they went for it on 4th and 1 with like inside 2 minutes in the Minnesota territory to finish the game, and they didn't get it. And then
Minnesota went
30
down,
or the 60 seconds later they went down, scored a touchdown. So I mean, that's just how it goes. Same thing. I picked Vegas to win. We both picked Vegas to win. And that was a 50-50 game that I leaned. I think Raiders had a little bit more talent, and actually Titans threw the ball really well. But a lot of games like that. But everyone, I think, should have gotten not everyone, but most people got these 3 games wrong. The Chiefs, Bills, and Chargers, all 3 of them lost. The one which one are you least surprised about of those 3 losses? Which one are you least surprised about?
The least surprise is the Buffalo game.
Yeah. Okay.
The Buffalo
That's what I was
Miami
thinking
game,
too. Yeah.
We talked about it before I left your house. I was really leaning, thinking about changing that pick, just because Jordan Poyer, IR,
not Jordan Poyer,
a Hyde IR. Jordan Poyer was inactive. Tre'Davious
was
White.
Jordan Poyer inactive also?
Yeah. Both their starting safeties were inactive. Tre'Davious White has been dinged up, and Dane Jackson, one of their other starting corners, was also out due to his neck injury. And I'm like, if you're gonna go to Miami right now, you have to be able to have a secondary that can at least be on the same page. And I get Buffalo, it has an elite offense, but still, even if Miami could just get it out to those weapons, which they were somewhat able to do, it creates a lot of problems for the top secondaries in the league, let alone your practice squad secondary.
So this is what fascinated me with this game, and let me pull this up. Which team do you think their quarterback threw for 400 yards? Which team do you think did that?
If I had to guess, well, I know Tua threw was 13 for 18 for 186, so I would say Josh Allen.
Oh, okay. So that's what I was looking at the stats. As a team, Buffalo had 515 total yards. Josh Allen went 42 for 63, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 60.4, which is interesting. I wonder if that includes fumbles. None. I wonder if that includes fumbles. So they did have a fumble, but they had 115 rushing yards. Now, of course, Josh Allen led that. But then you go look at the Dolphins. They only had in total, I think, 127 total yards. Sorry. 227 total yards.
Total yards.
And so Tua threw for 186, and then rushing wise, they had only 41 rushing yards. Wow, so and you look at that, I know, and Miami won. That's what's crazy about it. I think this is just kind of one of those games where you're not going to win every single game in the season, and nothing went the Bills. I still think the Bills are a better team than Miami.
Of the 3 teams that played, the Bills are the least. Well, I might be less concerned about the Chiefs. We can talk about that in a second. The Bills,
we'll get to that in a second.
I still think the Bills are the top team in the AFC after this game.
I think so too. Everyone loses games.
You're going to lose a couple games throughout the year, and I think part of it too was I think they just had a couple unfortunate, poorly timed breaks that went against them. So shit happens. I'll just chalk it up to that, and then
I think and what's crazy too about than what you said. So they held to yard wise 227 total yards throughout the game, and it goes back to your point. Their secondary was depleted.
Decimated.
Was very depleted, and I think they didn't even have Ed Oliver either. I mean, I know they have a pretty deep front 4, and that they rotate a lot. But how many sacks did they have? They had 2 sacks.
I know they had one
throughout the game.
Passer, but
yeah, that's true. They did have one. That's a great segue. It's a great segue to what we were talking about. So I remember when that happened, I got a sleeper notification. Tua wobbly gets taken to blue tent with head injury. So what's interesting though about it is because I was reading about it afterwards, he said his back locked up, which is why he was wobbly and he hit his head. So it's because I don't know who to believe in the situation, because when he came back, I remember. Well, anyway, so when I saw that sleeper notification, we looked at each other, concussion, with the information provided.
Saw the clip on Twitter of him trying to stand up and can't, like, falling all around. And
yeah. But then with the new information, or with their side of the story, it was interesting because when he came back really quickly, we're like, that's very interesting just in today's age. And it made me think about it might look like it might look like a concussion, but we don't really know what the situation is on the field. It could have been his back and he couldn't stand up. But then from there, that makes me bring some more questions. If it's a back injury, what are the protocols then to then come back into play? So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because obviously we don't want guys playing with concussions, but at the same time, if it's not a concussion and he says he feels fine to play, then that's,
Oh, I think we lost Tyler there for a second. But I understand the question that he's asking. For me, I probably think that a back injury might be a little more lenient than a head injury, for the sole fact that Tyler, I guess we lost him officially. Just for the sole fact that you can brace for a back injury. So I was just saying that I think the protocol for back injuries versus head injuries might be a little different, because you can brace for a back injury. You can do things to kind of support it, maybe help numb the pain. And what could have happened is just when he fell, he landed on his back awkwardly and then just like pinched a nerve really fast.
He could have.
And then went into the locker room, got adjusted really quick by the training staff, and then just came right back out. So that to me is a much quicker fix than a concussion, where it's like, all right, well, you can't put a brace around your helmet. Like,
well, and as one thing too, where because I'm leaning also towards, because I think even the comment came from Tua as well, that his back locked up, and that makes sense especially then if you're looking at the organization as a whole, and even then also what the Dolphins have gone through a little bit, because I know there are some other league violations that they have been that they've gotten reprimanded for.
Yeah.
If it came out and if they could prove that they let Tua go back in playing with a concussion and they didn't go through the protocols correctly, something that has been in place for a long time, the backlash from that, they could get in a lot of trouble. And for them, it'd be like, one, we don't want to even hurt our star quarterback, who we've invested a lot of money into, got in a lot of pieces to come in. But two, then if that happens, then they get a suspension, more draft picks lost, or everything like that. So it does make sense. I mean, to where I think even we, like when we were looking at it, jumped the gun too quickly, to where like concussion, like, oh, he's back in, like what's going on? Not obviously, we don't know what is being said in the tent. We don't know what is going on in the huddle. But I saw like the NFLPA wants a review of the situation, because I saw that article almost immediately after the game, like that ESPN was posted it and everything.
Yeah. I think the NFLPA is just going to do their due diligence there and just make sure that nothing was done wrong. I don't think they're really. If something was done wrong, I think they might fish for a lawsuit. But I don't think that's what they're doing at the moment. I think they're just doing their due diligence.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because then with the NFL, and this would be just kind of my final thought on the whole thing. So I was looking at the NFLPA, because it's interesting too that it's like they're there to protect the player, but then at the same time, like if it's the player's decision to go in and play, then how can they go in and then sue the NFL? It's like, but at the same time, though, I also know even the competitor and us, like if we're playing in a serious game, it's like, no, coach, like, put me in, I'm good to play. When really it's like this could actually be way more detrimental. So it's almost like they're trying to protect the players from themselves. It's a very interesting kind of situation that the NFL and the NFLPA can put themselves in on, like what side of the argument, But
well,
still, that being said, though,
it's not.
Yes, that is very true. It is always
that's a little bit of a manipulated surface.
Yeah, but still, that being said, when we were talking about it, Miami's the only undefeated team left in the AFC. They are currently first overall. They control their destiny, I guess, to win the Super Bowl, you can say. But, they look good still. Anytime you beat the Buffalo Bills, even if it's not in the prettiest, sexy way, comeback style way as they did against the Ravens last week, that's still That's still good.
Let's put it this way. They probably had one of the worst games they could have had offensively, only 228 offensive yards, and they still won. So that's one of those things. Maybe they'll look back on it and realize that they just got lucky, but you could always flip it and spin it that way. I do want to talk really quick about the Colts. Colts big upset over the Kansas City Chiefs. What did you think of that game? I know we didn't really get a huge opportunity to watch it, but
absolutely. I think just like with everyone. So I'm in a pick'em league with 37 guys. All 37 guys picked the Chiefs to win. I'm sure just like most of America, just the way it's and it kind of goes back to what I said earlier with the Bills. It's not like this is college football where, you got to come in and be prepared and win, obviously, every single week or your season's done. These are also still professional. Sometimes guys have a little bit more of a down week, and sometimes even then guys have a better week than they normally should. And that's just what happened here with the Chiefs and the Colts. And you know what? And I was even thinking about it too, is maybe we were being maybe a little bit too harsh on the Colts. Yeah. Still 2 weeks in, they've had some injuries and everything like that. And maybe they're starting to come back, be a little bit healthier. They had Michael Pittman back. They had Alec Pierce back, their young rookie receiver. And they still have some other even defensive injuries. I think Shaquille Leonard didn't play in this game either against the Chiefs, which kind of makes this one even a little bit more impressive. But then on the flip side, though, the Chiefs have been playing so well that we were kind of surprised about. They only put up 17 points against the Colts when Jacksonville just put up 24 the week before that. Houston put up 20 points against them in week 1. So maybe, and this I think was kind of the theme for the weekend, but it seemed like every team was kind of coming back to the middle. Either like if you were regressing to the mean, like if you were not playing well, these first 2 games and you came up, and if you were playing well, then you kind of all teams came back to the middle. And we're going to talk about that more because I think that's the same situation with Green Bay and Tampa Bay as well. And we're going to get to that game here in a second. But, good for the Colts too, because honestly, this division, there's an extra team now in this division that they're going to have to contend against. And that's going to be Jacksonville, who we're about to talk about here in a second, because they look legit. Chargers definitely did look depleted, but Jacksonville looks legit. Colts are going to have to pick it up and going to have to win some games. They've got a tough game next week against the Tennessee Titans, and that's going to be big because they can put
1-2 versus 1-1-1. I think.
Yeah. So they can get a huge advantage over Tennessee if they win that game. So, but there's still some talent on that Colts team. Maybe everyone's being a little bit too harsh. Maybe we were just surprised about how they went about their first 2 games against teams that we thought. They should have just run all over, but they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, that was for me with how bad the Colts looked in week 2 against Jacksonville. I mean, how many first half interceptions did Matt Ryan have? 3?
Something like that. He got sacked 7 times. It was just not a good game at all.
No, for a team like Jacksonville that we felt was in a rebuilding stage. In my opinion, still is. I think they just might have gotten off to a quicker start than what we expected. For Indianapolis to go and face a team like Kansas City after that Jacksonville game, we just expected it to be really ugly. And I actually really liked the way that Indianapolis fought back. They looked like a good team from what I saw. And they looked like they had some fight in them. So I'm really curious to see this division battle. This division battle, to me, is like the NFC. It's going to be close, but for all the wrong reasons. So yeah. And then the Jacksonville game, Jacksonville looked incredible against the Chargers. Was a very depleted LA Chargers. Justin Herbert fractured cartilage in his ribs playing through that. No Keenan Allen. Joey Bosa ended up leaving the game with an injury. So
and then another one too, probably even bigger than that. Rashawn Slater out for the year with a torn left bicep, their left tackle. So that's going to be huge. They're already out Corey Linsley as well. So it's going to be If there's these three teams we talk now, three teams that I would say are AFC juggernauts for sure. I would put them in the preseason upper echelon of the AFC teams. Very concerning. The Chargers are the team I'm most concerned about now because that is a lot of injuries. And even now on the defensive side of the ball as well with Joey Bosa out, J.C. Jackson, we still don't know. And still played week 2, didn't play this week. And so it's don't know really kind of what's going on with these injury situations. That's what happens with teams. Sometimes the team just gets the injury bug, happened to the 49ers during the COVID year. But definitely concerned about the Chargers, and I think a lot of people's eyes got turned on a little bit by how the Jaguars were playing. Another team that may contend for a wild card spot in an already loaded AFC. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. No, it's nuts. Just adding another team to that group of, I think, 12 last year going into week 16 or 17 that were still playoff eligible. Which is just nuts to me. Like that's just insane.
But you know what's so funny too, and you and I suffer from it. Everyone in sports media suffers from it as well. But it's like how short, how awful our long-term memory is. I totally forgot about last week or the other day that they mentioned the Colts, and I forgot they started 1-4 last year. And should have made the playoffs, should have beat the Raiders in week 17, then should have beaten Jacksonville still in week 18, So like we can have all these concerns about it, but we're 3 weeks in. We're only 1/6 of the way through the season. Like
New England started the season 1-3 last year and still made the playoffs. They're probably going to start at 1-3 again, but I doubt they'll have the same fate.
So. I know. And it's like, Green Bay went 13-4 last year, and it's like it started off with just
a 27-0
one of the worst
loss.
It was one of the worst played games by any NFL team in the entirety of last year. So it's definitely it's so easy to just be like to watch a game and be like, oh, that team sucks. Like the Falcons won. Like it's like I was saw some stuff like potential playoff run. No, absolutely not. Like, no. There's absolutely no way.
You guys beat probably the worst team in the NFL, in the Seahawks.
That's actually that proved to us that proved to the NFL that the Seahawks are way worse than they actually are. That Denver
you guys actually beat them, I don't say convincingly, because I think it was a 27-23. But, like, in the fourth quarter, you guys were basically just controlling the game. Like, there was no –
You know what's funny, and let me pull this up. But we, I need to pull up the stats here. But offensively, actually, it's funny. They did look really good, but it's the Seahawks defense. And I know your opinion on Jamal Adams, but even then, you could arguably say that he's their best defensive player, and that's not saying much. But like he's out. I'm pretty sure he's out for the season. But let me look this up here because I saw this stat, and through 3 games, I believe Cordell Patterson is second. Yeah, he's second in the league in rushing with 302 yards. He's above. He's only behind Nick Chubb, who they're playing next week. Lamar Jackson is tied for 4th with Christian McCaffrey at 243. But so there is some solidness on this Atlanta offense. But that being said, though, it's like they're still absolutely awful. Sorry, all this goes back up to being said, though. Going back to we got off topic there, but it's only 3 games for the season, and I kind of forgot. I forgot that the Colts tied the first game, so that actually gives them an advantage, like over Tennessee, who's 1-2. They're technically ahead of them, but that tie was so awful it felt like that was a loss. But they're 1-1. They beat Tennessee next week. And then Jacksonville loses to Philadelphia. The Colts are leading the division, through 4 games. But there's such a long way to go through this season.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's now
we still have 13 more games, or no, 14 more games to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, we're at the end of September. So
yeah.
But last thing I know, you want to talk about this, and one team who now we're pretty confident is not going to make the playoffs. We're already kind of confident they weren't going to make the playoffs in general, but now with their QB getting a high ankle sprain, what's the word on Mac Jones? And then I guess how do you think that they're going to be able to bounce back from this and maybe maybe can get on a run to get in playoff contention?
So, Mac Jones is already ruled as doubtful for Sunday's game. He has a severe high ankle sprain. They're trying to avoid surgery, but doesn't look like that's going to be possible. And if he has surgery, it's probably a 2 to 4 week rehab time, just to make sure he can come back and do that. But the thing is, so you're going to go to Green Bay this week. You'll be 1-3, and then I think after that, I want to say the Lions come to New England, which usually would be a good thing. Except the
I don't know,
Lions
man.
Actually, look really good.
Well, they can put up some points. I mean, they can really. And there's no one on your New England offense that I think that they would be scared of.
The offense actually looked really good for like 75-80% of the time. They just made a couple bad mistakes, but Baltimore, excluding the fourth quarter of the Miami game, has a really good defense. And they actually did a really good job, I think, this week of utilizing a lot of those weapons. They just made a couple really dumb mistakes. They had 4 total turnovers. But then so after that, you play Lions, Browns, Bears, Jets, Colts. And if Mac is gone for 4 weeks, I'm like, you're not going to beat the Browns. You're probably not going to beat the Bears. That, to me, that's a coin flip game without Mac. You're 3 out of 4 times you win that game if Mac plays. But then you're looking at a 1-6, 2-5 start to the season. And like at that point you're done. So
especially then also with that division too, where they haven't even played the Bills. They still have 2 games left against the Bills, and then they got to play Miami again, and then playing against the Jets. I mean, it's no slouch, you know. Like,
no, that's not a gimme game how it was in the early 2000s
for most of your life.
Yeah, for the past 20 years. So
that Mac Jones, that's a big injury, especially for a team that's already has some question marks. So, but we'll have to see from there. I already have Green Bay penciled in to win that game next week, and so but let's move on to the NFC and really just kind of talk about it as a marquee game. Everyone was super excited about it, but these 2 future first ballot Hall of Famers went up against each other, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Not the shootout that we are used to seeing, but a lot of that I think was out of both quarterbacks' control, just with the weapons that they have. But one thing, though, it's like, especially the Buccaneers, they didn't have their top 3 receivers. But, man, both those defenses are legit. They're both legit defenses. And we've seen this. Even Green Bay led like the second half of the first game against Minnesota. Yeah, they gave up two really big plays to Justin Jefferson, but even then they kept that Minnesota Vikings offense in check. They kept the Bears offense. I mean, and that's not saying much, but they kept that Bears offense in check, and they did the same thing with Tampa Bay. I think that looks good, but also the same thing to Tampa Bay. They've only given up 3, 10, and 14 points. I mean, they have to have one of the best defensive points allowed average in the league. And so go ahead.
I was gonna say, and to be fair, I feel like those numbers are slightly skewed. And it's also only through 3 weeks. Remember last week, Carolina had the number 1 defense through 3 weeks. So those numbers are slightly skewed.
Well, but still, there's still some talent and some consistency, I would think. I mean, they still only kept that Green Bay offense to 14 points, and it's still, they're a little depleted, but you still have Alan Lazard, and you got Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers as the two creative minds kind of leading that offense. So I'm not too concerned about either team. I would say with Tampa Bay, though, I think if they had all 3 receivers, I think that they win that game. I think that'd just be too much firepower. I think that they would win that game 21-14, 24-14, or something like that. So I think Tampa Bay can improve. They do have some injuries also on the offensive line. I think that they can address and get healthier. But still, that all being said, I think Tampa Bay's in a good is in a good spot. For the season.
I agree. That division is going to be no competition for them at all. And Mike Evans also isn't injured; he was just suspended for the.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's not like they're going to have to wait 3-4 weeks to get one of those weapons back. Like Mike Evans comes back next week. And Julio Jones was also a game time decision today, so maybe he'll play next week. So if I'm coming away from this game and I'm Tampa Bay, it's like, yeah, that sucks, we lost, and like that might be a big tiebreaker for us down the road. However, that was very much like Cole Beasley started for them, and he was picked up on Tuesday. Like, it wasn't exactly like they were at their full strength. So
I wonder how that would even how would he even learn the playbook? Like, I think it would just be like you're like, there's no way you can even know the whole playbook or anything. Like, you'd probably have to ask like Tom, like
in the huddle, Tom, what route am I running?
Like, I know you just said to play. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to do a 10-yard out? Like, he was probably in there, and he had the most simplest route tree.
Knowing, it's like not knowing Tom, but like knowing the type of system and what they used to run, they probably didn't overload him with very complex things. They probably just put him in the slot and gave him a couple hot routes that he could try to read coverage and get. And who knows? I mean, that could be a really big weapon for them going forward, because everybody knows Tom Brady loves those small white slot receivers. So, yeah, that's
those slots. What
I know.
What a slot.
I know.
Yeah. But, so, before we get into our Thursday night football game, kind of as of now, because I keep looking at. Let me see. Oh, here it is. I put it up here. I keep looking at our playoff chart from earlier, and like I have, like we're just talking, I have Green Bay as number 1. I have Tampa Bay as number 3. Philadelphia at 2. Rams at 4. You have it Tampa Bay at 1. Rams at 2. Green Bay at 3. Philadelphia at 4 for the NFC. At this point in the season, are you still confident that that's going to happen, or do you think there's going to be any changes or anything like that? Like, and if so, what?
I think
what
Philadelphia
will
might be higher. I think I still like Tampa and Green Bay kind of where they are. But I feel like Philadelphia might be the third best team in the NFC right now.
Third best team. Oh, yeah. So you think still Tampa Bay and Green Bay would beat Philadelphia?
I think so. Like if Tampa Bay is healthy and Philadelphia are healthy, I think Tampa Bay wins. Green Bay, I think that's a coin flip, because I think both of those teams are really, really competitive. Okay.
All right. Now what about wild card? I have Dallas, San Francisco, Minnesota, my 1, 2, 3. You have San Francisco, Minnesota, Arizona.
San Francisco, Minnesota, Arizona. I still like San Francisco and Minnesota. Arizona, I don't like. I don't really like any of the other NFC East teams besides Philadelphia. Honestly, the team that keeps coming to mind is going to be Detroit, that I think really could like sneak in at 7. They are just they're exciting. I think that as that offense continues to play together, they'll start to string together a lot more drives and play a lot like even better than they already are on offense. That defense with Aiden Hutchinson, like they can really get after the quarterback.
Oh yeah,
they're not the greatest like team defense, but man, if they can just make like 4 or 5 good plays, like just enough to keep the offense in it, I really like that team. So
yeah, no, they're definitely an interesting team to look out for, and I'm curious to. I think Detroit has a better chance to make the playoffs, but a team I'd like be interested in learning and looking at, and they're playing now, but they're undefeated. But the Giants, Curious to see how they keep developing. I think that they maybe can push for a wild card spot. Their issue, though, for me, their issue is going to be their offensive line, and can they provide like are they able to make that step forward to becoming, I guess, not the worst offensive line in the league, but to being
average.
Average. Honestly, not even average, but just like 20th. You know what I mean? Like the low 20s. Just make that step forward.
Yeah.
But so now for the AFC, and which we're going to get into here in a second, because one of these teams that we have winning the division, we have making the playoffs. But we have Cincinnati. I have Cincinnati as the 3 seed for the AFC, winning the North. Buffalo's 1, Chargers at 2, Indianapolis at 4, and Bengals at 3. You have Buffalo. Actually, we have the same thing. No, except you have Denver winning the
that's
AFC
not
West
anymore.
Yeah.
Denver on paper looks so good, though. Hi, Brew. I know. I'm talking. But Denver on paper looks so good, and then it's like they just don't they look like they're playing street ball out there. Like they just don't look like they have a designed play.
Yeah. Well, they do. I will say offensively, they have the weapons. They have on paper, they have the weapons. So I wonder if this might be a thing. Maybe they just need to gel a little bit. And you know what? And to be fair, they are 2-1. They are tied for the lead. In this division. But they have played so poorly, and they should be undefeated. They should have beat the Seahawks. They should be 3-0 right now. But they have just played so poorly offensively up to this point.
I want to say their 3 games they lost 17-13 to
17-16.
Oh, 17-16. That's right.
The Seahawks. They only beat the Texans by a touchdown. They only put up 16 points. They haven't put up more than 16 points.
I was going to say they haven't put up more than 16 points. And it's like they have weapons galore. It's like you have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Alberto Okuebunam, I think is his last name. But he's a really good receiving tight end. Can't block for shit, but he's a good pass catcher. And then it's like you have Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon in the backfield. And then to tie it all together, you have a top 15 offensive line from last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and then a defense that can get you 3 and outs and get you right back out on the team. So, I wonder if this, and this kind of goes back to maybe like what we were talking about earlier with the Colts, but it's like 3 games into the season, like a lot of gelling that could do. Let's see what they're doing around Thanksgiving time, because that's when the season starts to get really serious. But the Denver pick still isn't out of the question for me. If there's one amongst the 2 of us, for me, the Chargers being the second pick, I don't think, or being the second seed, I don't think is going to happen. I think that they can still win the division, but in order to do that, though, I think they'll be closer to like 10-7, maybe 11-6.
That division will have to cannibalize itself a little bit for them.
And I think that's what will happen. Is I think all these teams will start beating each other in these close games. Like the Chiefs barely beat the Chargers, and in a game where I honestly think the Chargers should have won. They looked like they were the better team. If it wasn't for if they weren't rushing and then threw the pick 6, very possible they win that game, and that's a big game. But I think they can beat the Chiefs.
Kansas City would be 1-2. They'd be 2-1. With the tiebreak at the moment. So
but another thing though too, also with that is the amount of injuries that they have right now. How is that going to affect them? Moving forward, are they now then just going to be fighting for a wild card spot? Wild cards for the both of us. I have Kansas City.
I have one more for division winners. I don't know if Cincinnati's going to win the division this year. Baltimore looks really good. Lamar Jackson specifically looks really good.
So this is what I said, and I think this goes both ways. Where if you're too hard on a team, but maybe give them too much praise. My issue though for Baltimore is that defense. That defense is not good. I'm sorry, but your Patriots put up 26 points against that Baltimore team. They should not have put up 26 points at all.
To be frank, they probably should have put up more. But it's not like the Patriots had to earn every single yard. Like they had to make contested catches. They had to scheme players open. They did not really run the ball very well. And everybody gives the Patriots crap for their weapons. They're actually not like they're the definition of NFL average. Like Devontae Parker, a 29-year-old Devontae Parker, former 1,000-yard receiver. He's a good receiver. Nelson Aguilar has a couple seasons over 1,000 yards, a couple at like 800, like also a good receiver. So like they have NFL talent. I think that Baltimore defense gets a bad rap because of that last quarter they played against Miami.
Well, no, but not even just that. But I think this goes back to last year, though. Like this is a consistent thing, though, that we've seen with the secondary for the Ravens. I do agree. I think their front seven's really good, but when they play a team that loves to throw the ball and can throw the ball and can protect the quarterback, it seems like they get burned and lose every single time. And so I need to go back and double check. I could be completely wrong on that. But I would need to go back and check. It just has that feeling. And when they go up against some of these teams, when they go up against the Buffalo, and they go up against Cincinnati, who can sling it, and once they get their offensive line figured out, which they started to this week, nice domino win over the Jets. Cincinnati matches up so well against the Baltimore. They're playing Buffalo this weekend, so this will be a good. Baltimore is hosting Buffalo this weekend. That'll be a good kind of test to see if I'm right or if I'm way off the mark on this one. Because personally, I think Gabriel Davis is going to be more healthy. So now you're going to have Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis on the other side. Then you have Isaiah McKenzie, who had a great game. I think he's really stepping into that role. Devin Singletary led the receiving catches and receiving yards for the Bills this week. That just shows how deep they are, because you got to focus so much on those three guys, and you got Dawson Knox, who's not a horrible tight end. So Josh Allen, worst case scenario, jumping off to Devin Singletary, and I don't see how Baltimore's defense always seems to struggle against those teams. That's what really hinders them.
Yes, I agree that Baltimore tends to struggle against those teams, but almost every single defense struggles against those teams. That's not exactly
Miami. Not like they only gave up 17 offensive points. This week
but they
against
gave
the
up
Bills.
over 500 yards. When was the last time a team didn't score more than 20 points and had over 500 yards of offense? That'll be an interesting statistic to look up.
I'm sure there's some Falcons games that they blew that are like that, where they gave up so many yards. But then also they could have given up 30 points too. I had to go back and double check. I just in general though, I think the Ravens secondary makes average offenses, as you said, especially passing wise, look better. Personally,
yeah. I mean, we can talk a little bit more about it as the season develops. I think the Ravens have a legitimate chance to win that division.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Well, then that's a great time, because for me, what I was going to change, I have for my wild card 1, 2, and 3, I have Kansas City, Baltimore, Denver, and for me, I was going to say I think Baltimore might drop out of that. I don't think Baltimore will be in the wild card. Yeah.
I
would replace them with Miami. I would replace them with Miami there.
Yeah, I'm still not overly sold on Miami, and people are going to hate that. But for me, Tua has still only had one really good quarter this year. Even against all of the whole Buffalo game, he was 13 for 18 for 186 yards and a touchdown. And I'm that's. And then he had one quarter where he threw 4 touchdown passes for 275 yards or whatever.
But it's still
threw 2 long bombs.
Yeah. Well, it's still the whole team though. As like that defense, I think is really good as well.
Yeah. Who are my wild cards?
So I was going to say you have wild card 1, Las Vegas, Kansas City 2, New England 3.
Okay, yeah.
I'm confident that 2 of those 3 will not make the playoffs.
Yeah, Las Vegas and New England are not going to make the playoffs. Honestly, so if I leave Cincinnati as the division winner, then I'll put Baltimore and Miami in as the other 2. That's to me, those are the 2 that I think I'm leaning towards at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and I will say one thing, and we'll have to see because they're going to hit a tough part of their stretch, but neither one of us has even thought about Cleveland this entire time. And for me, the only reason why I just still think, I know that the middle part of their schedule, which I think the last 5 or 6 games, the Deshaun Watson suspension is really tough. But it's like, so if they want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to do well in that section. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. But even that Jacoby Brissett throwing to Amari Cooper, he looked solid.
Yeah.
They even without TJ Watt, that Pittsburgh defense is still pretty good. So better than the Ravens defense. So
no, it's not. It is not better than the Ravens defense.
But
you can make arguments that even with TJ Watt, I think it's pretty close.
Yeah.
So,
but let's that's going to be it for week 3. We still got the Monday night game with another riveting game.
I know.
Barn burner here. 6-3 Dallas. We both had the Giants winning that. We both need the Giants. So I'm guaranteed a 500 record. And we're now moving on to week 4, where I have won the past 3 weeks in our season-long competition, 3-0, while you're 0-3.
Who won fantasy this week?
You did, but
I did.
But who picked more games correctly?
Who won fantasy this week?
You can have fantasy if you want. I'm doing really well so far in our little league schedule thing. But we both need the Giants to win, though. And you know what? This week 4, and we're gonna check in tomorrow at around
the same time,
8:30, 9 o'clock Eastern time for our week 4 picks. But this game, even I don't know. Like I know I'm gonna have to make a pick tonight. But I mean, this could easily change by Thursday. But Miami Dolphins at the Cincinnati Bengals, Thursday night matchup. It's going to be a great game. Really looking forward to it. And one thing for me, Cincinnati has consistently struggled with, and with something that they didn't really have to worry about too much against the Jets, it seemed like, but it's just, if you have a good defensive front and can put pressure on Joe Burrow, that offense seems to struggle. So far this year, I think they're still working out some of the kinks in their new offensive line, and Miami's got a good front 4. Like I think they got a good defense overall, better than Baltimore's defense.
I do somewhat agree with that. I think Miami might actually have a better defense than Baltimore. It's really close though.
It's close.
Really close.
I'm just saying this stuff for the views. Obviously, how many people do we have joining us right now?
0.
See,
we have 2 total views. Yeah, for the night.
2 total views. Any comments?
No.
Okay. So
this series is not nearly as popular as the week previews. So
I do like the week preview ones are fun. I do like doing those. But Thursday night football, though, Miami versus Cincinnati. As I said, for me, it's going to come down to who wins the interior. You can say that about most games, but whenever you talk about the Bengals, a lot of my picks, and that's why I picked Cincinnati last week, is the Jets have seemed like they've struggled to put pressure and sack the quarterback. And I don't even know how many sacks actually they had against Joe Burrow this past week. Let me see if I can see it here. Let's go to box score. How many times did Joe Burrow get sacked? Only twice. And actually, Joe Flacco gets sacked 4 times as well in comparison. So, Miami, I think, can get more after the quarterback. They sacked Josh Allen how many times last week? A couple times.
This is a quick aside. Did you see
4 sacks?
Did you see the quarterback sacks and hits for the Eagles versus Commanders?
No, I did not.
The first half?
That was one. Not too many people. That was one of those no doubters.
So
similar to the Chiefs and Colts.
I saw a thing on Twitter. The Eagles had like 100% pressure rate. So they had 6 sacks and 40 QB pressures in the first half.
So on every
on
every pass
single
play.
drop back, they got pressure on Carson Wentz in the Washington football team.
That's insane.
So here, let's look. Yeah, so it says 9-58. So they sacked Carson Wentz 9 times, and then they had 58 QB pressures.
And that's throughout the whole game?
Yeah.
58 QB pressure? No way.
Yeah, that's what it means, right? It has 9 sacks, then 58 pressures.
Wait, are you on? No. Are you on the
box score?
Oh no, that's how many yards they lost.
Ah, okay. So somebody was saying they had 100% pressure rate, and they had 40 pressures against Carson Wentz on Sunday.
1 second here. I mean, I believe it. It was interesting, though. I'm just looking at this now. Eagles scored 24 points. They were all in the second quarter.
That actually is pretty interesting.
We'll have to look that up.
I could just be making a fool of myself and saying something I read off the internet, but
you could. You're always making a fool of yourself.
I try.
Miley struggled. He had 9 sacks, fumbled twice. Let's see here. It doesn't say anything as of right now. Wait here. Eagles did a great job making Wentz life hell by sacking him 9 times, hitting him 17 times. That's all we see of it right now.
Hitting him 17 times.
That's insane. God, that's insane. That's
every other drop back. That's almost every other drop back.
Long ice bath.
And it's not like those are small guys that are playing for Philadelphia. That's the Jordan Davises, Fletcher Cox. That hurts.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about more of them tomorrow in our show. Yeah. Let's wrap up this one right here, talking about Thursday Night Football. Obviously, the Phillies' defense is way better than Baltimore's defense, but we're not talking about either one of those. We're talking about Miami versus Cincinnati. I've already kind of said like what I think my keys of the game are. Obviously, I think we'll have to see what Tua plays first and foremost, but I think it's going to be a shootout. Both, especially the Bengals defense, especially their secondary, is nowhere near as good as their front four, and the Miami's front line has done a better job, I think, protecting Tua. And I also think Tua has definitely seemed like he has matured and is growing into more of the veteran QB that we all thought and wanted him to become. What are some of your keys to the games, and kind of what's leaning you towards your picks?
So I'm leaning towards the Bengals here. And I like the matchups that the Bengals have on the outside with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Byron Jones is still out for the Dolphins, and I really think that even though the Bengals might not have the best secondary, I still like their depth. Not necessarily their corners, but their corner depth better than Miami's. And I think that's going to play a big role because Xavier Howard will be able to contend with one of the receivers, but they're still going to have 2 receivers with extreme mismatches on the other side. So I'm going to pick the Bengals just because I think they started to figure out some of that offensive line stuff last week. And I think the Jets were more aggressive trying to get after Joe Burrow than the Cowboys were. Granted, they might not have the talent to do it, but I just think the Bengals are going to edge them out on this one. I'm going to take the home favorite here, I think, with the Cincinnati Bengals. I also think Joe Mixon will have a good game. The Ravens and the Patriots. Actually, well, I guess the Ravens, Patriots, and Bills all ran pretty easily against the Dolphins. So,
yeah, no, and that's where this is definitely a tough one. I can go either way, but for me, I was looking at the betting line already. And, it's hard, I think, on a shortened week, and even with the weakened secondary of the Bengals, I think it's going to be tough for them to kind of come back. And now this pick for me can change. It'll probably change every single day. But Miami's an underdog, so on the betting side wise, I think I got to go with Miami on this one. Coming off a big win, I think this is a momentum setter as well. And I think there's some good talent. I think that they'll be able to keep this defense in check. This Bengals offense hasn't exploded like how we were used to seeing last year, and I wonder if maybe they're still going to be having some hiccups on that offensive line. So I'm going to go with Miami. I think they're going to be able to kind of go shot for shot with them. I think Tyreek Hill is going to have a game just because, he's a lot quicker than Eli Apple and the rest of that Bengals secondary. So as of now, I believe Miami's going to win. Is going to win it, but we'll have to see kind of what goes on with Tua, see what other injuries there are. Just because with these short week games, it's very interesting and doesn't give a lot of teams time to prepare or get refresh. So
a lot of what we saw last year was the short week games. The team with more talent usually wins.
Yeah,
like just the team with better players.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I would actually be curious to go back and look at all that to see then who won. Because you're right, I guess within this past week, Cleveland, you could say their running backs and also offensive line lies like pound for pound was just better than their offensive line, and TJ Watt wasn't playing on their defense, and so they opened up the Pacific Ocean for Nick Chubb to just run all over them. So, and that's a good point. I'd be curious to kind of go back, see like if we just rank all the teams based off overall talent and then just move them, then when those teams play together, did a higher team win? So that'd be actually a curious little project to do. But yes, right. We disagree on the Thursday as of now. If it changes by tomorrow's video for me or for Ryan, then we will go from there. But and we'll update everyone. Sorry, I don't know why Jimmy Kimmel is talking to Joe Buck right now. So just what all football fans love. Joe Buck, everyone's favorite commentator, talking to Jimmy Kimmel, everyone's favorite late night host.
Is Jimmy Kimmel doing another soliloquy about gun violence?
This is not a political channel, Ryan. We talk about football.
Sorry,
luckily, no one's watching this. So
every single time I watch Jimmy Kimmel, I feel like he always is doing some sort of political thing.
Well, for anyone to make it in show business nowadays, you gotta just preach what seems like the least.
That's fair. Yeah,
the least controversial opinion is, and so, but that's a totally different. If we want to totally change this channel, we can talk about that. But I think Thursday night's game is going to be great. Hopefully Joe Buck and Jimmy Kimmel are not commentating that game. Actually, no, it's going to be Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, right?
I have no idea.
Because they do the Amazon Prime games. Pretty sure. At least that's what they did against the Chiefs, and I liked it actually. I thought it was good.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited for this one. I think this is going to be a really good precursor to kind of what we see on Sunday. A lot of close games again on Sunday.
Picking these games, and I guess a preview for tomorrow. But for me, like I can easily go and change this game, but there's only a few games that I already have penciled in as like these guys are going to. These guys will win. I tell you right now, like Green Bay's playing New England. I already had that one in. That one's already done. Cleveland at Atlanta. That one I'm less confident in, but I believe that Cleveland's going to win that game. I think they're going to run.
I'm more confident in Cleveland versus Atlanta.
Really? Well,
the only we'll talk about that tomorrow. But anyways, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Tyler and I really appreciate this channel and community that we're trying to grow here. We appreciate all the help that we can get. And so go ahead and hit that notification bell so we can ping you when we go live tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And we will see you guys then.